take you back 4 weeks ago today. Just a regular Monday day. I was at work myself with my daughter. I'm a owner-operator trucker, so I had daddy-daughter day. You know, I have 5 kids, by the way. Oldest is 17. My youngest daughter is 8, and there's 3 boys in between, 16, 13, and 10. And my oldest boy was at college, and so my wife was home with my 3 middle boys. And just a regular old Monday. Nothing was going on. My wife was just sitting at the dining room table in her house, and little did we know that my older 2 boys that were home, 16 and 13-year-old, had premeditated an attack on my wife and carried out just out of nowhere.
What you're listening to is a gentleman going by the name of Aaron, quote unquote Aaron. I have a feeling that is an alias, recounting the attempted murder of his wife and 10-year-old son by 2 of his older sons, ages 16 and 13. This happened the first week of October of this year, and the names of the family, of course, are being withheld because of the incredibly young age of the boys. But once I heard this and listened to this whole video, and I have to recommend that you go watch this entire episode of John Delaney is a member of the Ramsey personalities. He's a Ramsey personality, Dave Ramsey, but a very good counselor. I find him very, very easy to listen to, likes to get to the heart of the problem, very caring. So I highly recommend you go watch this entire episode. But I'm going to be delving into this case today on Keto and Crime.
Keto and crime, keto and crime. We uncover the grime on keto and crime. Keto and crime, keto and crime. Now is the time for keto and crime.
I think escape, leave the house, take the van because the older one has the driver's license, and leave the state. And who knows what they were going to do, but that was what was in their mind. My older son took it upon himself. I don't think this was pre-planned, but he went into a murderous rage and actually tried to kill my wife, and very nearly did. He came at her with knives and a baseball bat. My oldest son had a baseball bat. Quite a few times, she was beaten over the head with a baseball bat. My 10-year-old, who was not in the same room, heard mom scream and came running to see what was going on and went running for help. And he got taken down by my older son with a baseball bat, took a really, really bad head injury to the back of his head. And
so when I first saw that, I had to dive in. I started diving through the comments of all the YouTube videos about it, particularly that one, and I discovered a couple of comments that said that the older son, and these people, even though that particular caller, Aaron, probably again an alias, because I don't want to dox these people. That's not what I'm going to do. I'm not even going to name names, but they're actually from Alverta, California, which is, according to the interwebs, is a census-designated area in Sacramento County. So it's technically a suburb of Sacramento, but probably otherwise unincorporated. Average median home price there is $599,000. So if you live there, you either have to be quite moneyed or have bought there before, the California skyrocketing of prices. But basically, as the gentleman said, he's an owner-operator of a truck, an 18-wheeler, and is technically self-employed, so I'm sure he makes decent money. According to him, his children were homeschooled, and according to comments, which I have researched, the older son, the 16-year-old, was a pretty accomplished concert pianist with lots of videos on the internet of him playing. Nothing really unusual there, but then I saw a blog post which led me to The Vanguard Davis Vanguard org website, which Davis Vanguard is kind of a research think tank that investigates cults and churches with dubious histories, and come to find out that this family is a member of the Grace Valley Christian Center, pictured here on their website. It was founded in the 1970s by the main pastor, PG Mathew, featured here. He is an Indian-born pastor that originally pastored in Canada before relocating down to the United States into California. It's a pretty large megachurch. They own a daycare center, a school, and also for their high school students, they have an online high school. And the gentleman had mentioned that his wife homeschooled their children, so I would imagine that they are homeschooled through this church. But come to find out, at least the mother was a member of this church. And of course, lots of people delving into this church and realize that they have been cited and called out more than once for being cult-like and having cult-related activities. For example, former members of Grace Valley have detailed stories of basically Pastor Mathew being almost like a dictator level, stories of harassment, subversion, strict rules, sexual assault that is covered up, drug abuse, emotional manipulation, all with the pastor controlling the input and output of information. As I said, this was formed in the late 1970s by PG Mathew. It's part of the shepherding movement, which very much like Bethel Church that we have already discussed. I'll link that up here. It's a charismatic movement that sprang from concerns that evangelical Christianity was spiraling from tradition, that is, old school biblical tradition with gender roles and everything, and lacking in discipline. And so this church was formed along that movement, so very much gender role influence. I'm pretty sure they do frown on working mothers, single mothers, things of that nature. And I'm all for anybody doing what they want to do in life, whether that's being a mom or a stay-at-home dad even, or working, but you should have the freedom to make those choices. And that's what really, burns my britches about places like this, is where they put their beliefs on you. And so when I'm reading through here, I realized that PG Matthews, of course, kind of runs this like a dictatorship. His daughter, Sharon Broderick, is the principal of the high school. They again enforce those very strict types of rules. And when you kind of listen to the interview with the gentleman on Dr. Delaney's show, and you hear him talk about his wife started praying.
It lasted about 45 minutes. Moved from different room to different room. My wife escaped to this and that, and ended up in our bedroom. And she ended up talking, getting my 16-year-old to talk, and getting her to talk, and getting to talk. And she started praying for everybody and asked us for more time. She thought her life was. She told me that she thought her life was over. And she just started, asked for some time to pray for everyone. She started praying and got him to talk and asked, what he was planning on doing and why he was doing this. And he was murderous. He stated outright he was planning on murdering her, and he thought he had already killed my 10-year-old son. Turns out it wasn't true. But he got him to talk, and eventually, after 45 minutes or so, he called 911, confessed to what had happened, told him my wife was hurt, my son was hurt, and they told him to give the phone to my mom. I keep doing it. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
My wife. And so 911 was on the phone with my wife. They put the weapons down, went outside, and cooperated. Deputies came, and they.
I found that very, very unusual until I delved into the story and realized, oh, well, that makes perfect sense. Probably very, very strict Christian, believed that God would save her, and at least the praying had a psychological effect on her son, and he did call 911 and allow her to talk to him, thank goodness. But basically, this article highlights many of the typical abuses that we saw in the Bethel video. Just manipulation, control, a lot of it for money, and basically keeping hush-hush. A couple of stories about children who were being kind of, rowdy as children are, and they were accused of being possessed by demons by the pastor, and that they were becoming worthless in God's eyes. A young woman who basically, I guess, was not adhering to whatever rules the church had imposed on her, or her parents imposed on her. Pastor Mathew allegedly called her a used tissue, a dirty tampon. No man would want her, and she was 12. So very unusual. Now, these are all stories from people that have left the church. But what I have learned in my investigation of cults, and I have many cult videos on this video and in this channel, check it out, is that often where there's smoke, there's fire. And when you look at this particular crime, it all kind of makes sense to me. Probably this was a very strict household. Probably if he was the concert pianist, which I cannot find proof of that, I'll continue digging. But if he was a very accomplished concert pianist, probably had very high standards for him. And he probably had undiagnosed mental illness, let's face it. If he's telling kids that were acting unruly that the pastor is telling them they are demon possessed, then most likely that mental illness is untreated and undiagnosed. Now, the father seems to be very level-headed. I don't know what was going on at home as far as that goes, but he said at the beginning there was no signs of any trouble, but sometimes things just sort of sneak up on you. I'm not trying to badmouth the family or anything, but according to him, the children, his younger daughter, who was 8, was on the truck with him. She is staying with family. 10-year-old son and mom, after being in the hospital for over a month, are now recovering at home. He had an older son, 17, he's in college. He's gone back to college, and the 13-year-old and the 16-year-old are being held, of course, without bail. He's only been able to see them once. He said that the 16-year-old was quite withdrawn. They are going to charge him as an adult, and it remains to be seen what happens with the 13-year-old. But this is a very, very sad case. And I'm going to continue to delve into this, but it just appears that this is another bad reaction to very controlling religion. And I don't care what the basis of the religion is, be it Christianity, Islam, Judaism. Anything that controls you to this extent has a negative effect on people, and some people just don't handle that well. So my condolences and my heart go out to this family, of course. And I suspect that, the whole family is probably victims of this, because according to reports, this church, just like any cult, is guilty of love bombing, trying to bring people in. They recruit through colleges and things like that. And the fact that they have a school, they have a college, they have youth programs, they have everything that you would possibly need to function in society is almost their way, these mega churches, of keeping their parishioners captured. There's a King of the Hill episode where they join the big mega church in town, Hank and Peggy, and it's like a mini city. So it's kind of that atmosphere with these guys with Bethel, where they basically keep everybody captured, right down to homeschooling or attending their school. So they really control the thoughts and actions of their parishioners, and anything that gets into control that much is definitely a cult, in my opinion. So I'll do a deep dive maybe on this particular church. I think just the fact it's cut from the same cloth as Bethel makes it suspect to me. But anyway, I'll keep you posted on this case as more comes to light. But until then, go over and watch that whole video with Dr. John Delaney. It's fascinating, and it gives you a really good shot into it. John Delaney's whole purpose is to help people sort out their emotion. He is a psychotherapist, so he's not coming at it from a true crime perspective. He's coming at it from healing, and he does an excellent job of that. So go over and watch that. But I'll continue to keep you updated on this, and until next time, keto and cry.